Today I'm going to talk about my August reading plans, and this is going to be an expanded video, expanded TBR this month. Normally, I give you 5 books that are on the schedule, and then my next audiobook, my next short fiction collection, and then a wildcard pick at the end. Well, for reasons that you'll see as this video goes along, I'm expanding that list this month to 12 different books. I won't read all 12 books. Well, maybe I will. Anyway, here are the things that I plan on reading in August, starting with the 6 books, not 5 books on the schedule, the 6 books on the schedule. I have 6 books on the schedule, including 4 buddy reads, starting with Cloud Atlas by David Mitchell. So this is going to be a buddy read with Joanna from Joanna Reads and Carlos from StoryTube, and this is technically a reread for me, although it'll be the first time that they've read this book. I read this about 12 years ago when I was in a book club, and I remember this was one of the best discussions that we had in that book club because it's such an interesting book with so many things to discuss. It's a book that kind of defies genres or mixes genres. The story itself is so interesting, the structure of the story. It's kind of an arch form where it starts with the first story and it progresses through 7 different stories, and then it kind of circles back upon itself, and they're all connected. So when it circles back, so like the first and last stories have the same setting. The second story, the penultimate story have the same setting. It's a really interesting book, and I'm sure we'll spur some great discussion with Carlos and Joanna and me. So I'm really looking forward to rereading Cloud Atlas in August. The Winter of the World by Ken Follett is the second book in the Century trilogy, and this is a trilogy that I'm reading with Kyle from Read by Kyle and Ian, whose channel is Ian the Reader. And this is the second book in that trilogy. The Century trilogy spans the 20th century, and what it does is it follows 5 families from 5 different countries across the globe, and it follows them throughout the century. And the first book was centered around World War I, kind of before, during, and a little bit after World War I. In the second book is going to be centered around World War II, and it's going to follow, I'm sure, some of the same characters from the first book, as well as, the next generation of the family members in the second book. So I'm really looking forward to this for a few reasons. We had a great discussion on the first book back in May when we read it, and all 3 of us really loved that book. I called it a masterclass in plotting and pacing, and was really blown away by it. And it seems that the second book is the one that most people kind of say is their favorite in the series. So I'm really looking forward to reading this in August. Mirrored Heavens by Rebecca Roanhorse is the 3rd book in the Between Earth and Sky trilogy. And this is a trilogy that I've been buddy reading with John from Talking Story and Philip Chase. And what's really interesting about this fantasy trilogy is the setting. It's based on, kind of inspired by pre-Columbian Americas, and it's a different setting than your typical kind of medieval Europe type of setting. And I've really enjoyed those world-building elements of the story. And I just finished the second book as I'm filming this last night, so I feel invested in the story. I don't think this is going to be a trilogy that goes down as one of my favorites, or maybe, threatens to be in my top 10 or anything like that. But I do feel invested in the story, and I've really liked the way the story went in the second book in particular. So I'm looking forward to having another discussion on the second book. We haven't had that yet. I can't remember if it's on my channel or John's channel, but look out for that if you've read the series, although we always do start spoiler-free. And then I do look forward to, in August, reading the conclusion of this trilogy and having a great chat with John and Philip. The Lambeth Gate is the 3rd book in the Key and Vandian Quartet by Megan Lindholm, and I'm buddy reading this with Derry from Derry's Read It Before. Megan Lindholm is Robin Hobb. It's the same writer that writes 2 different pseudonyms because neither of those are her name. And I've really enjoyed this series so far. I'm really amazed that she can do so much in so little, because when she writes as Robin Hobb, she writes some pretty thick works of epic fantasy. But these Key and Vandian Quartet books are very small. I think the second book was 270, so pretty short story, but it really had a lot in there, a lot of great character work. I really enjoy this world that has multiple sentient species. There was some really interesting magic at play in the second book, so I'm really looking forward to continuing this series and talking with Derry when we get to the very end of these 4 books, which were the first 4 books published by Robin Hobb, aka Megan Lindholm. And it was obvious from the start that she's a very, very talented writer, and I look forward to continuing this series in August. So those are the 4 buddy reads that I have scheduled for the month. The 5th book that I have on the schedule is one of my long-term reading projects, my Michael Connelly reading project. I'll be reading The Last Coyote. And The Last Coyote is the fourth book published by Connolly, and this is the fourth book to feature Harry Bosch as a protagonist. And I'm reviewing these two at a time, and I'm doing all of these spoiler free, so even if you haven't read any Michael Connolly, you can watch these videos. I'm doing these two at a time, and I'm kind of spreading it out over several years. And I've already really been enjoying the reread of these books by Connolly, these early books that I haven't read in a while. I'm really excited to reread The Last Coyote because I remember it as being one of the strongest early Bosch novels. In fact, I called it my first S-tier Bosch novel. But the one thing I've always said about Connolly is when people ask me for recommendations, I always just say start anywhere. He's super consistent, and you can read any book because they're basically standalones. However, when someone presses me for a recommendation, I've usually picked one of three books. I've picked The Poet, which is about a journalist trying to catch a serial killer, The Lincoln Lawyer, which is legal thriller, or The Last Coyote, which I consider, again, the first S-tier Bosch novel. In fact, the Quiluminati, that's a hard word to say. Brian, why'd you call it that? The Quiluminati read this, I don't know, earlier this year, and they really loved it. So I'm really looking forward to rereading The Last Coyote because I just remember it very, very fondly and remember as one of Michael Connolly's best novels. So the biggest reason there are 6 on the calendar is not because of the 4 buddy reads, but my school year is starting. If you don't know, I'm a music educator, and my school year starts in August. And every year at the beginning of the year, I tried to read something somewhat work-related to start the year, to maybe inspire me at the beginning of the year. Sometimes it may be professional development types of books or something like that. Sometimes I may just read a biography or a memoir about a musician. And this one's along those lines, but it's a little different. And this is Music Quickens Time by Daniel Barenboim. And this looks really interesting to me. So Daniel Barenboim is a very important musician of the late 20th century, early 21st century, originally as a pianist and a piano soloist, and then finally a conductor. His most notable conducting job he had as he was the music director of the Chicago Symphony for a very long time. And those are kind of considered some of the later glory years after the Fritz Reiner years of the Chicago Symphony. And he has a lot of books out. He has a memoir out. He has a couple other books of this type. This one was recommended to me by a mentor who's become a friend and just said it's really, really great. Barenboim doesn't shy away from controversial topics. Like, for instance, he was one of the first conductors to perform the music of Richard Wagner with the Israel Philharmonic. But he's not a controversial figure because he's more of a figure that promotes community and inclusiveness. And it's just going to be interesting to read kind of some of the topics it looks like he tackles in Music Quickens Time. So I'll look forward to reading this sometime in August as I start my new school year. All right, on to the audiobooks. The reason the audiobooks are expanded is I'm filming this, what is it? It's the 24th of August when I'm filming this. So I have about a week left, and I'm going to finish the first audiobook I want to mention, so I might as well mention both of them. So the first one I'm going to finish, and this is called Outlaw, and this is by Jim Butcher, and this is the latest Dresden Files book, but it's a novella. It's not one of the main books. So it's pretty short as an audiobook. It's just like 4 hours, so I'm about halfway through it, so I'll definitely be finishing it in the next week or so. And I'm very glad, not that he did a bad job, but I'm glad that James Marsters is back as a narrator. The previous novella that Butcher published was called The Law, not Outlaw, called The Law, and he narrated himself. And I said that he is probably the second best Harry Dresden out there, but I think Marsters is Dresden. He's just so fantastic at this. So I'm enjoying that one, but I'll probably finish that in July. The other audiobook, the next one I'll read after that, is a reread of a book by my favorite author, Guy Gavriel Kay, and that's going to be Isabel. If you've been keeping track, Philip Chase is doing a big, it's called the Grand Guy Gavriel Kay Read Along, GGGKR, if that acronym is right. Yeah, he's been doing that with Evan from the Nerd Writer on his channel, and they've been reading through all of the works of Kay, and they have kind of a rotating cast of guests that come in and talk. And I was very happy to go in and talk about A Song for Arbonne late last year, my favorite work by that author, and I'm going to be back for Isabel. And I'm excited to talk about this one as well, because Isabel, I think, is one of the Kay books that is the most maligned, and I really enjoyed it. So it's a book that oftentimes, if someone ranks the top, the 16 books of K, they rank it 15 or 16. And well, I liked it. So I look forward to talking with them about Isabel. That'll be sometime in September on Philip Chase's channel. All right, on to short fiction. Another one that I think I'm going to finish this next week. So that's why I'm going to talk about two of them. I'm currently down to just a couple stories in Daughter of Regals and Other Stories by Stephen R. Donaldson. This has taken a long time, mainly because I've traveled so much and didn't have this with me. I normally read short stories between main novels, but even this month I haven't read much of this because I've been reading kind of side by side a couple things, a big thick tome of a book about the American Civil War, and I've been reading it back and forth with kind of some fantasy novels. So because of that, I haven't been inserting any short fiction, but I predict I'm going to finish 3 more stories in July. There are 3 more stories left for me to read here, so I'll probably finish this in July. So let's go ahead and talk about the next short fiction collection that I'll be tackling. And this is Stephen King. This is part of another one of my reading projects. This is Everything's Eventual, 14 Dark Tales. I've actually reread this already, but I'm looking forward to rereading it again and giving it kind of the closer scrutiny as I'm doing in this reading project, my Stephen King short fiction project. But I reread this about 5 years ago and it blew me away. I thought every single story was great. Hopefully that still holds for me, but this will be my next short fiction collection. And this will definitely last a couple months because 14 stories, if I read them between books, that's about 2 months of reading. So I'll probably talk about it more, but here it is. That's my next short fiction. All right, wildcard picks. So the wildcard picks, I've been a little less than 50% this year. And something I wanted to do is kind of change up what I do for the wildcard picks. If you follow the channel at all over the last couple years, you realize that I don't do book haul videos. In fact, I did a book haul video about 2 years ago. I called it my last book haul, and to this day, it's my favorite thumbnail, and it's my favorite opening. I don't do cold opens that often, but I did a cold open for that video that I really liked. Anyway, I stopped doing book hauls for a couple reasons. Number one is that I only post once a week. And I don't want to post more. I don't want to post less. I like kind of the every Sunday where I roll out a new video. I just kind of like that schedule. It works really well for me. So I didn't want to have, like several videos a year doing a book haul. So that was one reason that I got rid of those. It gave me more space. And the other reason that I kind of got rid of it is I just found that it wasn't calling to me creatively to, just sit and talk about the books that I acquired in a month or a quarter or anything like that. Even though individual book reviews don't do as well, if you've noticed on the channel, I've done a lot more of those this year because that's just what's calling to me creatively. Well, I want to do I wouldn't call these book hauls, but my wildcard picks, I'm going to start including books that you send me. Because I do have an Amazon wish list, and every so often I get a book from that, and I'm always thankful. And even though I put it to the top of my spreadsheet of things that I want to read, it doesn't always happen right away. Sometimes it does happen right away. Sometimes it takes weeks, months, even years, because again, I have a lot of books, and I do a lot of buddy reads and read-alongs and things like that. So sometimes it takes time for me to get to things. But I really want to thank people that took out the time to send something to me. So that's what I'm going to start doing for my wildcard picks, is if I get anything in the mail from any of you, I'm going to make that my wildcard pick for the month. And in fact, this first one, I'm pretty sure that I'll be reading this very, very soon because I've really wanted to read this. And whoever sent this didn't include a note, so I don't know who sent this to me. So whoever sent me this collection of Haruki Murakami's works, thank you very much, because I'm really excited to read. There are 2 here. Watch this. This is pretty cool. So this is Hear the Wind Sing, which was Murakami's debut, and then flip it over, and we get Pinball 1973, which is his second novel. They're both short novels, like 100 and 150 pages. I'm really excited to read Hear the Wind Sing because I've been kind of planning for almost 2 years of doing a video where I kind of rank my favorite authors' debut novels. And I hadn't read Murakami's. He's the last one on the list, literally, before I can make that video. So I can finally get to Hear the Wind Sing. I may even squeeze this in at the end of July, who knows. But whoever sent me this one, thank you very much. I really appreciate this. I now have every fiction work of Murakami on the shelf. So that's something really cool for me. All right, and the other selection, this was sent to me by Evelyn. Evelyn, thank you. This combines two things I love, the fantasy genre and John Steinbeck, and this is The Acts of King Arthur and His Noble Knights. It's a long title. I had to think about that. So this is Steinbeck writing about King Arthur. I don't know much about this one, but I can't wait to read it. I have been doubly intrigued because Max Scarfield on our Discord has been posting some quotes from this book. Has made me really excited to pick it up. But you know how I love Steinbeck. I've read 16 books of his at this point, and now I have 2 unread on the shelf. So I'm getting closer to getting through everything. But I really appreciate getting this one in the mail. So maybe this will be a wild card pick for August. We shall see. But either way, thank you for sending me some Steinbeck to be reading. Anyway, that's my August reading plans. If you've read any of these, I'd love to talk with you in the comment section below. Let me know what you thought of them. Just, of course, no spoilers since I haven't read them. And I'd love to hear what you're most looking forward to reading in August. Let me know that as well. If you like this video, please like and subscribe. You can also find me on Twitter, Goodreads, and the Fireside Discord. I'd love to interact with you there. As always, thank you for watching. Until next time, goodbye.